team into October? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state when that light turns red. So don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.
That's right, and welcome to the Fifth Chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian, and we're on an hour earlier because from here on out, the Fifth Chapter will be a 7:30 Tuesday and Thursday show. Are you ready, even though we're here an hour earlier, Dennis?
Man, I'm ready for some football, and I'm ready for the Fifth Chapter. I'm excited. I'm glad we made the move. I didn't want to go up against Thursday night football, especially
we would have crushed them
night here.
If we wanted to. We would have crushed them in the ratings.
The show would have looked a lot like this.
Well, and it wouldn't have been.
What's that?
It wouldn't have been looking like that because you were checking the Tigers score.
No.
Yeah. 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago when I started to really get ready for the show and cut off the game, it was right after the Tigers gave up another home run to make it 3-0 Cardinals. So that looks like another loss. Definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in to today's show. It's episode number 36. We've got 5 more fantastic chapters for you. Once again, it's a 7:30 show. If you're tuning in right now and it's 8:30 and you're thinking, how come they're talking about it being a 7:30 show? Don't worry, you can still watch the show after it airs each time. But I want to thank everyone who is watching on YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitch, whether it's live or the recorded version. Also want to thank those who are listening to the podcast via Apple, Google, and Spotify. And obviously, because we're on an hour earlier, you can expect the podcast to be available before 11 p.m. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Dennis will be monitoring all 3 feeds, and he'll be reading your feedback throughout this show. Let's now take a look at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, Same Old Lions or Brand New Pride? Dennis and I have our 2020 Lions predictions. We'll go through it game by game and get you set for the season opener this Sunday against the Chicago Bears at Same Old Lions Stadium. In the third chapter, our 2020 NFL predictions. Are the Chiefs going to repeat? Is Brady going to have a better season than Bill Belichick? We'll give you our Super Bowl predictions. We'll give you our division winners for all 8 divisions. In the fourth chapter, the tanking Tigers. I mean, I should have put the streaking Tigers because they look hot one week and they look ice cold the next week. But no matter what, they keep on hanging around that playoff picture. Can they get in? And then in the fifth chapter, it is story time. Of course, I've got another ride-sharing story, and it is the story that I decided not to tell last week. I had a bunch of boring riders this week, so I'm bringing the story out that I teased from last week, which features a cokehead. So stay tuned for that in the fifth chapter. Let's, though, start off with the first chapter, Dennis, and that's about the fan experience because, as we know, due to the Rona, it's obviously much different in 2020. No fans at baseball games, unless you count the cardboard cutouts that we see in St. Louis. No fans at basketball games, unless you are a relative of one of the fans. You can go to the bubble. No fans in hockey right now. And when it comes to football, it varies. Most NFL teams are not allowing fans, but in tonight's season opener, there will be fans because the Chiefs are allowing up to 16,000 fans to attend. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the only other NFL team allowing fans at the start of the season. In college football, it varies widely. There are far more stadiums that are allowing fans, and it varies from 20% at Alabama and Arkansas 38% at Arkansas State, 4% at Liberty, 25% at Kansas State, 0% at East Carolina, 30% at Louisville, 25% at Texas, 0% at West Virginia. It varies wildly. Dennis, what do you think about the fan experience, and what do you think it's going to be like at games this year, and how interested do you think fans are going to be in attending these Rona games if they have the opportunity to do so in their state or in their city?
Oh, I think it'll be the hottest ticket in town. Like if people want to go and there's 65,000 seats. If there's only 10,000, man, are you kidding me? They'll be crawling all over the place to try to get those particular seats. Plus, you'll probably make your way on TV if there's that limited amount of fans. The camera will be scouring the stadium there. That much more of a chance. People like getting on TV. I thought it was interesting. I was looking at a story today that NFL is allowing all the teams to pipe in fake crowd noise, but there's only a certain decibel level, and they're going to be monitoring that. So I'm interested to see. We don't have that. On some of the different baseball broadcasts that I watch, they do just a hint of sound. You'll see the guy, throw over the first base, at home, and the crowd always, you'll hear just a little bit of a boo there. You do have a little bit of that going on. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. I think it's going to have a big effect. There's going to be two things to really watch in the games tonight. Sean McVay, since he's been the head coach of the Rams, he hasn't done anything. He wasn't interested in the preseason at all, held all of his players out. And the last 2 years, they were rusty in the first half. And I think we can expect, I don't know, I didn't check. I'm sure there is one. Maybe you can help me out. Maybe somebody else can. I think the best bet is the under in the first half of tonight's game. If I was gambling on tonight's game, I think whatever that is, that number is going to go under.
You like the defenses to be ahead of the offenses.
Yeah, and I just think this, sloppy play coming out. That's what we saw from McVay's team the last 2 years, and with no preseason and no hitting, I think you'd expect that. Navy didn't hit at all. You saw BYU came out as a physical team. They just exposed them, man. If you're not ready, if you have not been tackling, if you have not been fighting a little bit to, work on some it's like boxing and sparring. You got to come out there and hit. To be interested to see, what kind of effect that has. But, yeah, I do think that the defenses will be ahead. And by the second half, I think they'll, you got to get that precision going, especially in the passing game. Maybe both of these teams will come out and try to run the ball because of that. But the offenses will, I think, moving forward have I think the road team comes in. That's the biggest thing about playing on the road is the crowd noise and, making sure you're communicating your snap counts and everything else and thinking about pre-snap penalties. Shouldn't have to worry about that at all. Even at Arrowhead tonight, should be able to, Sean Watson should be able to talk like me, and they ought to be able to hear him on the outside.
Yeah, well, and even the 16,000 fans, if they get that many, are going to try to be as quiet as possible for the home team when they are under center. But I think it obviously makes sense to have there be a decibel maximum when you're pumping in crowd noise, or otherwise, I mean, you could see the game at Ford Field this weekend where the Lions, where Sheila Ford Hamp is whispering to the PA guy, crank it up, crank it up, crank it up, and Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson, everybody goes deaf, and the Lions know to put earplugs in their heads or something like that, and they have to keep on calling timeout after timeout because nobody can hear anything that's going on. I don't know what that level is going to be. I'm sure it's going to be loud, but and I think it'd be interesting to see if you got teams that are going to, I guess you could say cheat. And by that, I mean go to the maximum decibel level on every single play, because in a typical NFL game, the crowd is not going to be at that maximum decibel level on their feet shouting throughout the entirety of the game. On the first drive of the game, if they're really excited, they might do so on a big third down, and certainly in the fourth quarter for big drives, the crowd's going to get as loud as possible. But if it's second down and 3 at your own or at the 20-yard line, when the crowd is probably going to be typically in a typical year at a moderate decibel level, are they going to crank it up to the maximum level just to make it extremely difficult on every single play? I think that would be a winning move for the home team to make it loud on every single play, but that would be kind of disingenuous.
Yeah, I think Bill Belichick has probably informed the Gillette Stadium
Oh
operator
yeah.
there. Maybe play some like symphony music or something relaxing when the other team is there, something to throw them off. Anything to get an edge. They said that they'll be watching it and monitoring him. If they're going to fine him, so to hell. Let's pay the fine.
Yeah.
ACDC, crank it up.
Yeah, I know,
Let's
I
go.
believe that. But the other thing that you mentioned is you think that these tickets are going to be the hottest in the world or on the market right now. Everyone's going to want to go to these NFL games, and I can tell you that based on reports, that is fake news with a capital F. And I want to put up a story for everybody to see. It's from Yahoo Sports, and it's about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jaguars allowing fans to start the season. And it says there may be pent-up demand for football in the middle of a pandemic, but that apparently isn't translating into hot NFL ticket sales for the first week of the regular season. It says the Chiefs and Jaguars have experienced some lagging demand for their home season openers this week. Multiple league and ticket resale sources told Yahoo Sports this despite being the only franchises to feature live crowds in their home openers this weekend and with seating being at a very limited capacity. It says lukewarm sales have translated into both teams having a surplus of tickets still available. Also, later on in the article, it says that Jaguar seats have historically been plentiful and in low demand on the secondary market, but you can still get tickets for $50 to $60 per ticket as of yesterday. And as for the Chiefs' home opener against the Texans, they're saying that they're having trouble selling out, even though they're only allowing 16,000 fans. And then it also mentions that multiple sources familiar with the Chiefs' ticket sales told Yahoo Sports the team has had to work deep into its base of season ticket holders to move higher priced seats while also assuring fans of the safest possible environment. They're talking about giving saliva tests to the people that are in suites. So, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised like you. I would have thought that if a stadium typically has 70 or 80,000 and they've got, maybe 50,000 season ticket holders, that a big chunk of those fans would be fighting over the 16,000 seats that are available. But according to this reporting, we might see not just empty seats, but empty available seats when we're watching the game tonight. And I think that shows that a lot of folks out there, while there might be a demand for football, there's not a demand to go out there and risk your life or risk your health to see the football games. Fans want to see the football games from the comfort of their couches.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised. You're not surprised at the Jaguars, that people don't want to go see them play. But I am surprised. I mean, tonight's the ring ceremony. Chiefs just won the Super Bowl. They're coming back. You would think that there would be a lot of people there. But, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the part about having to go there, get your temperature taken, getting patted
Well, no,
down.
that's only for suite holders.
Test.
That's for suite holders.
Well, yeah, so I don't know. Maybe the anticipation of being, quarantined or put over here, stay away, make sure you stay in your seat. Can you go to the bathroom? Anything else? Maybe you can't tailgate. I don't know, whatever the rules are. Surprising because, look, half the country thinks that we're good to go. No, there's other half are being very cautious, but like half the country seems like they're like, let's go, let's party. But so, maybe that is an indication that they're just going to take a wait and see approach.
Yeah, and I'm seeing if I can pull up some ticket data from StubHub and show it to our audience right now. And as a matter of fact, let me put that up on the screen so everybody can see what I found on StubHub. And I mean, look, you got some $85 seats, some $112 seats, $119 seats, and look, it's all throughout the entire stadium. There are seats available. So this is not just some phony Yahoo article. I mean, they've got $100 tickets, are reasonably priced tickets for an NFL game, and there's lots and lots of tickets all throughout the stadium. Upper bowl, lower bowl, extreme lower bowl. Nobody wants to buy these tickets, and honestly, I can't blame them. If I was thinking about going to any game this year, it would be either the Penn State-Michigan game or the Penn State-Ohio State game in college football, and obviously we don't know if they're going to play. But, besides the fact that Big Ten football, if it happens, is going to happen later in the year, and we have to worry about if there's going to be a second wave and the projection of 3,000 people dying a day in December. One of the things that you have to consider if you're going to an NFL football game or any football game, because a lot of colleges are having anywhere between 4% and 30% capacity, is just how strange it's going to be. I mean, you think about going to an Alabama game or a Texas game or whatever your college football team is, and you're used to going to a stadium with 50,000 or 100,000 fans, every seat filled to see your team's big game. And instead, if you have 20 to 25% capacity and your team scores a touchdown, one of the things that you'd like to do is to stand up, cheer, give high fives to the people around you who came with you, and high five to strangers. Now you're going to be at a social distance. You might, who knows, you could be kicked out of the stadium if you go 10 feet over to give somebody a high five that didn't come with you. It would just be an awkward experience. And I also know that we know the Tigers have been trashed for several years, and if you go to Comerica Park for the last few years, you've been at a social distance because nobody goes to the games. I've been known to buy nosebleed seats and then just sit wherever I want behind the dugouts, and I'm still at a social distance. The back doubles. It's just, in a dead environment, it's just not what you pay for. So if you're paying $100 for a ticket, you want it to be a packed environment. You don't want there to be 20% capacity and you're in a straitjacket because you're afraid to move. I get not wanting to go.
Yeah, there's a benefit too. I mean, everything can't be perfect. You'd like to have everything there where, the crowd, you're experiencing it. But I like also, I like a crowd and like the atmosphere of the game, but I also like being able to stretch out, man. I'd be able to put my feet, go to a game watching Mahomes versus Watson, be able to put my feet over the seat in front of me, and put my arms around both of the armrests, that thing would, in the chairs next to me. I think that would be pretty cool. We got some feedback on this before we move on to the next chapters, and see John and their DJs want to know what's up with the Central Time tonight with us going here. AP equals Super Bowl. That's coming in from Ron. And DJ Major saying, you mean to tell me no one wants to go to a Jaguars game?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about that article, is that it gives you the both ends of the spectrum. The Jaguars projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Chiefs projected to be one of the best teams in the NFL. And both teams are struggling to sell seats. The other thing I wanted to bring up during this chapter was something that broke this morning at 8 a.m. And I put up a tweet from Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. And it says, Chiefs and Texans players have been in talks about a joint demonstration before tonight's NFL kickoff game that makes a statement on racial justice and shows unity, per sources. One possibility discussed, both teams staying in the locker room during the national anthem. Now, Dennis, we know that there's been a lot of talk over the last 4 years, ever since Colin Kaepernick took his knee, about what to do during the national anthem. And last year or the year before, there was talk about, well, if you don't want to stand, just stay in the locker room. We know that President Trump has had his views about you must stand with your hand on your heart, no staying in the locker room, no kneeling. And it seems like the NFL owners are kind of ignoring the president right now and saying, we're going to do what we want to do. But I don't know that a lot of the NFL owners are on board with players staying in the locker room. There's also been talk about how some fans who are watching other sports are turned off by Black Lives Matter messages, the names on the backs of the jerseys for basketball players, seeing Black Lives Matter at NBA games and protesting NBA, NHL, and MLB games and not playing. What do you think the response is going to be if we've got mass demonstrations like this throughout week one of either everybody kneeling or staying in the locker room during the anthem?
Well, I think the response will be from people that like to complain, that they're going to complain, and they're going to talk about how they're not going to watch the games, and they're going to talk about how people don't care about America. They're going to talk about, why don't these guys go play in the NBA? It's going to be critical of it. But, what we found here is that, a few years ago, that there was a lot of pushback on the players from the owners and, the sponsors and everything else. But, if this one thing that this summer has taught us, it's about examining where we're at right now and looking at your beliefs and what you know and what you think of your neighbor and what you think of America in 2020. And are you going to stay with your same beliefs? And if you're going to stay and roll out, the same complaints, or are you going to meet people halfway? You're going to have some empathy. It's all about these things that we continue to talk about. So, the players, I think all of them, we're going to see it on Sunday too. It's going to be demonstrations across the NFL, and we're going to see if we can get what kind of conversation we can get out of it. And again, if you're on one side and you're like to examine the issues and say, hey, where are we at? Why are we doing this? Can we talk about it? If somebody else is putting up a stop sign, it's like dialogue is what's needed here, and empathy, and really on both sides is trying to look at the other person and try to figure out where they're coming from, and if you can find some common ground. And so that's what I think's going on. It's not like if you don't like what the other person's saying, you say to hell with them automatically, and
Well, but what people are going to do is, if they don't like this, they're threatening to not watch. And I know there's been a lot of talk about how the ratings are down in the NBA, and some are pointing to the Black Lives Matter on the court and on the backs of the jerseys and things like that. I think that football is going to be the real test, because it's the most popular pro sports league in the country, more popular than basketball, hockey, or baseball. Fans like the action, the gambling, the fantasy sports. And folks are threatening to not watch. So if there's a big ratings dip after week 1, and you can't just say, well, it's because it's not being played at the typical time like basketball and football are, or they cut off 100 games like in baseball. If there's a big ratings dip and NFL owners attribute it to Black Lives Matter and anthem protests, and Trump is tweeting about it and he's talking about it at rallies, then the owners might have to decide, well, are we going to mandate that they do something? There could be some heated discussions. I think that there probably will be some people that decide to not watch games, but I think most people are watching football games to see the games. I'd like, unless it's the Super Bowl, most people don't watch the games for the national anthem. I want to put up this Twitter poll that I put out before the show, and I asked, if there are joint demonstrations like not coming out for the anthem, or there's anthem kneeling, will you not watch NFL games? 50% says, no, that's not going to be the case. I just want to watch the games. 41.4% say, no, because I support the protests. And only 8.6% say that, yes, they will stop watching games because they're sick of whiny blacks.
What an option there, huh?
Well, 8.6% picked that option, so we'll see if those maybe there'll be an 8.6 drop in NFL ratings in the first weekend because folks are sick of whiny blacks.
Yeah, I got to believe that tonight's game is going to smash records for ratings, and I think the Sunday's games will do the same thing. I mean, I see some people that I know that are sports fans, if you take the social issues and you just put them over here, there are some people who are just like, I just can't get the feel, watching the games without the crowds, and it's just not the same. And, I felt that when I was watching the basketball games for the first, half and then the first game. It is odd. I mean, it's different, but, this 2020 is different. And does it really affect your experience watching the game where you're seeing an empty stadium? It's haunting at first watching baseball games. I preferred listening to the radio where, that was kind of, wasn't reminded about it every single pitch, but you adapt. I think it's easier for us. We go to a lot of games, go to preseason games, go to the exhibition games, you sometimes go to practices, and, it's, it'll be interesting, but I think that they'll score record ratings this week.
All right, we'll see. We already know that you were dead wrong about the ticket sales. All right, let's turn the page to the second chapter.
Yeah, that gets us to Detroit Lions season. SZN, as we get ready to go. And what we know here, Ryan, is that you got, you mentioned her a little bit before, Sheila Ford Hamp. It's her first year as owner, taking over in the off season. You got Matt Patricia in this is his third year. You got
Yep.
Bob Quinn in his fifth year, and Matt Stafford going into his 12th year. These are the four major players here. Let's get into how we feel about this Lions game on Sunday and the Lions season.
Yeah, this season opener, I see that the Lions are 3-point favorites against the Chicago Bears, and look, I think it's a steal. I think it's a steal to bet on either the Bears getting 3 points or the Bears at plus 130. I think that when they're healthy, these teams are evenly matched. The Bears I think they have a better coach, a coach who's given them a division championship as recently as a couple of years ago. But one thing that really stood out to me was the injury report for the Detroit Lions going into this first game. Kenny Golladay was limited in practice yesterday with a hamstring injury, and he missed all of practice today with a hamstring injury. And coming from someone who is currently dealing with a hamstring injury and has had a hamstring injury for the last 5 or 6 weeks, this is not something that when you need to go into a dead sprint and turn and things like that, you can just get over in the snap of a finger. I also saw that Vaitai missed practice with a foot injury. Their starting right tackle. Danny Amendola, their number 3 wide receiver, was limited with a hamstring injury today. Jeff Okudah, their first-round pick, was limited with a hamstring injury. It's like the Lions have the worst hamstrings in the NFL, and of course DeAndre Swift's limited with a hip injury. That's 3 starting offensive players and your most talented member of your secondary. Unless Quintez Cephas is going off for 100 yards in the first game, the Lions offense is going to be in trouble. And then you see that there was already a lot of concern about Vaitai perhaps being overpaid at right tackle. He's going to have to either he at less than 100% or the backup is going to be going up there against Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn for the entire game. Yikes, it's going to be a same. Oh, and one more thing. Matt Patricia has been an unmitigated disaster in season openers. They were a big favorite against the Jets in his coaching debut. They lost by 31. Last year they were favored against the Cardinals, who were featuring a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, and they had an 18-point lead, and they tied that game. Yeah, I'm picking the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears are throwing out Mitchell Trubisky, right?
Yeah, wasn't he 2-0 against the Lions last year? Yeah.
Yeah, he's bad against everybody except the Lions. You make a compelling case for the Bears. It would be tough. I think the Lions are going 9-7 this year. This is one of the games that I have them winning. I saw that injury report with the status of Golladay and your right tackle. I mean, that is very concerning if you're going in here. This is one where you're talking about the Lions have to win it. We've seen, the Bears have success before. I do think though, injuries have been a factor for this Lions team. What we saw last year, especially on that defensive line, injuries a big factor. But you know what? The quarterback position here, I'm putting a check mark over to the Lions, and I think I don't know if Corey Undlin, their new defensive coordinator, he's coordinating the same defense as Patricia here, but in a game where they better win this one just to start things out when you got Green Bay coming up next. I find the Lions in the winner's circle here, and I think they're going to cover. I'm on the opposite side of you. I'm going 24-20 in this one, chap. Lions.
This is the third straight year that the Lions have been given, let's just say, a team that's expected to be weak to start off the season. It's a third straight year that you say, well, the Lions have to win this game if they want to have a good year. And in the first 2 years, they're 0-1-1. I just don't trust them. Let's quickly run.
Understandable that you don't trust them. I mean, like when I listen to you talk there, it's not like I'm ready to fire back, like, oh, you're some idiot or you're a Lions hater, which I think one of those two are true. You are a hater, but you're making good points.
All right, let's go through the other 15 games. So you've got them at 1-0. I have them at 0-1. Second week at Green Bay.
Yeah, I think they're going to lose that one. I don't have the game by game in front of me to see if it's how it ends up going out. But I do have them at 9-7. I don't think that they're going to win the division. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs even with an extra team. I think they're going to finish in third. I've got the Packers winning it again. I don't think the Packers are going to win 13 games. I think they'll win 10. And I think the Vikings will win 9. But so both the Vikings and the Lions. So I guess they'll tie for second place.
All right.
Is how I'm looking at it right now.
Well, I'll go through the game, the season game by game for me. You've got them at 9-7. I've got them losing the first game, losing the second game at Green Bay. Third game, it's another must-win game. It's at Arizona. I've got that as a loss. I initially was thinking that was going to be a win, but I was thinking, wow, you got an untested secondary up against DeAndre Hopkins. That could be a potential disaster. No Darius Slay this year. Fourth game, home against the New Orleans Saints. That's a loss. So the first quarter of the season before the bye, they are 0-4. Then they go on the road to face Jacksonville. Oh, look, a couple of bad teams that could go either way. I've got that as a win. At Atlanta, this could go either way, but I think that the Lions are going to struggle in the secondary once again with Ridley and Jones catching passes from Matt Ryan. Who knows if Matt Stafford's going to be healthy enough to play by then with a bad right tackle and a rookie right guard. That's a loss. Week's seventh game, home against Indianapolis. I know a lot of folks are high on them because they got Phillip Rivers and they've got a really good offensive line. I'm not high on them. I think that if Stafford's healthy for this game, that's a win for the Detroit Lions. Perhaps it's an upset win, but it's a win. And then eighth game at Minnesota, that's a loss. The biggest concern I have about them is all the rookies they have, but I still think that the Vikings are better than the Lions. Ninth game against the Washington football team, Washington FT, that's a win. At Carolina, they're going to have a lot on their hands with Christian McCaffrey and with two new defensive linemen straight out of the draft in Yetur Gross-Matos, the second-round pick from We Are Penn State, and Derek Brown, the guy that I would have slightly preferred over Jeff Okudah at defensive tackle. But I'll give the Lions a win, maybe by a last-second field goal. Next game against the Texans, home, that's a loss. At the Chicago Bears, this is a toss-up, but I think this will be a win for the Lions. So they got a nice stretch there to get to 5-7. And then home against Green Bay, loss. At Tennessee, loss. Home against the revamped Buccaneers, loss. And home against the Minnesota Vikings, loss. I've got them at 5-11.
Yeah, there's your 9 wins. I was going through them as you went through. So yeah, I guess we'll find out. Yeah. You know, the last 2 years I had them at 5 and 6 wins. Mm-hmm. And the last time that I picked them to be above 500 was 2015. That was coming off the year where they lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs. They got, they had those bad calls. Yeah, they still had the fourth quarter a chance. Stafford with over 2 minutes and 2 timeouts. They had a chance in a 1-score game, couldn't get it done. But they brought that entire defense back except Ndamukong Suh. And they came out, and I knew after the second game of the year that was the worst prediction of all time. I thought that they were going to win the North. I predicted them to, win at Green Bay, which actually they ended up doing. But, I wasn't bragging about that one when I picked them to win double-digit games and win the NFC North, and they started out 1-7 or whatever it was.
And on the contrary,
complete and total disaster.
And on the contrary, 2 years ago, I was exactly right by predicting them to go 6-10. And last year, I was off by 1 game. I had them going 3-12-1. They went 4. I'm sorry, I had them going 4-11-1. They went 3-12-1. So when it comes to
last
Lions,
year, you had them with a tie. Is that right?
That's correct. I was off by 1 game.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is. It is very impressive. All right, Dennis, let's turn the page now to the third chapter, because while the Lions are the team that most fans around here care about, they're not the only team going in the NFL. And when we look at the rest of the league, obviously you got 8 divisions, 8 division winners. We'll give you our division winners. We got 4 per conference. New in 2020 is the extra wild card team per conference. The number 1 seeds are going to be the only teams getting byes in the first round. So I think this could lead to a lot more competition in Week 17. Typically, we've seen teams in Week 17 just throw in their scrubs. But if teams know that they have a shot to fight for that last bye, then they're going to, or not the last bye, the one and only bye, then they might be more encouraged to go out there and try in Week 17, as opposed to if they know if they get the first or second seed, they're getting a bye. But before we get into wildcard teams, Dennis, let's go division by division and pick our winners. NFC East.
Yeah, I like the Cowboys here. I think the Eagles are frauds. Stay tuned to Major Wager. I'm using some playoff bets and some futures, but I like the Cowboys to go 10-6 this year and win the East.
Yeah, I've got the Cowboys winning this division as well. When it comes to that division, it's obviously weak when you talk about Washington FT and the New York Giants, especially bringing in a new coach. And it just comes down to the to the Cowboys and the Eagles, and you just never know if their quarterback Carson Wentz is going to stay healthy. So, and if Carson Wentz doesn't stay healthy this year, there isn't a Nick Foles behind him. So, yeah, I'm going with the Cowboys too. New head coach, quarterback who wants to get a long-term deal, a lot of offensive weapons. I like the Cowboys too. NFC North.
Yeah, I'm going with the Packers. I don't think they're going to win 13 games, but it wasn't Rodgers' team last year. It was already Aaron Jones's team. And, they bring another big back in the second round. They're going to run the ball a lot more. I'm surprised they didn't get Rodgers a weapon. That's the biggest thing that they needed. And they had a shot. Instead, they reached for a quarterback. That was a bad move, I think, by the Packers here. But they got a pretty good defense when you think about the Smiths that they brought in free agency and the impact that they had. A lot of people are like, yeah, the Packers aren't a 13-win team. I don't think they are either, but I think they're good enough to win double digits. Mm-hmm. And if there was going to be another team, it would be the Vikings. You already mentioned they have a very young defense that they're bringing in. I like their coaching staff, and I like where the Vikings are at here. And if I had to pick another team, it would be Minnesota, but I'm picking Green Bay.
If the Vikings had kept Stephon Diggs and if they had traded some of their picks away, because I think they kept all 13 of their draft picks, if they had traded some of those away for some more veterans to put on the team, I feel more comfortable putting them ahead of the Packers, but I've got the Packers as well. And I have to think that with all the wide receivers that they've drafted in day 2 and day 3 in recent years, one or two of those guys is going to emerge as a number 2, as a quality number 2. I have to imagine at some point. So I'll go with the Packers as well. NFC South.
Yeah, well, in this one, I am picking the Saints, a team that I picked to go to the Super Bowl for the last couple of years, but I'm not going to this year. But I still think they're the class of that division. I think they're going to win 11 games. They won 13 last year. I have them going with a 11-5 this year. Edging out TB12 and the Bucks there, who I think will win 10 games and get the wild card. Spoiler, but yeah, I got the Saints.
I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won 7 games last year, despite having a quarterback that threw 30 interceptions. Tom Brady, look, he's not what he used to be, but when you think about Tom Brady in recent years, he's not what he used to be with lackluster talent. We're talking about Rob Gronkowski being injured and not playing. We're talking about not having a number 1 wide receiver and things like that. And he's still been putting up good but not great numbers. Now he's got perhaps the best group of weapons in the NFL. When you look at tight ends, Gronk, I don't know what you're going to get out of him, but you also got O.J. Howard. At running back, you got Fournette. You got McCoy, and I forget the other running back. And then at
Ron Jones.
Yeah, Ron Jones. And then at wide receiver, you got 2 Pro Bowlers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think that's going to be explosive. They could put up 30, 35 points per game. So I've got the Buccaneers beating out the Saints. NFC West.
Yeah, I think this is the best division in the NFC, maybe in the NFL. I think San Fran takes it down, but I think both Seattle and the LA Rams will be wild cards. So I'm going with the Niners. That running game, Kyle Shanahan, what he's got going. Their defense pretty stout too. I think no question, man. The 49ers, they haven't lost much. They're right. They're right there. And I've got them winning 11 games. Or I'm sorry, I've got them winning, I have to look, 12 games.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the 49ers as the class of the division as well. I think the biggest threat to them is going to be the Seahawks, but I'm concerned about their weak offensive line. I like DK Metcalf, the way he came on at the end of the last season to give Russell Wilson a number 1 wide receiver weapon, but I'm going to go with the 49ers as well. And you said that you've got two NFC West wildcard teams in the Rams and the Seahawks, and then you've got the Buccaneers as a wild card as well.
Correct.
Yeah, I've got the Saints as my 5 seed, the Vikings as my 6 seed, and the Seahawks as my 7 seed. Now to the AFC East. Are the Patriots going to win it again, or do you think the upstart Bills will take the division?
Well, I don't think it's going to be the Patriots. I had the Jets actually earlier in the year until they started trading everybody away and looking like they were dismantling this team. They don't want to win the AFC East, so I'm not going to pick the Jets. I am going to pick the Bills. Bills got a pretty good defense. Josh Allen's a tough guy to ride with there, but think about them. They should have won that game against the Texans last year in the playoffs. So not only did they win 10 games last year, they damn near won a playoff game. I think that they are the best team in the AFC East. Yes, I'm picking the Bills.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me, but I went with the Patriots. I think they could have better quarterback play this year with Cam Newton, but the biggest factor is Bill Belichick. There's been this debate about whether it's Bill Belichick or Tom Brady that's led to the Patriots' greatness over the last 18, 20 years. And I've always been on the side of Bill Belichick. I am very concerned about them losing all those players due to the coronavirus, not because they got sick, but because they decided to opt out. But all the time you see the Patriots lose players. They lost Tom Brady one year, and they still won 11 regular season games with Matt Castle, the quarterback. They just do their job. They just keep on rolling along. They could lose coordinators. They could lose coaches. They could lose players, and they just keep on winning division championships. I've got the Patriots winning the division. Maybe it's by a tiebreaker, but I've got them in the East. AFC North, this should be a no-brainer.
Yeah, well, this is, if the NFC West is the toughest division in the NFC, the North is the toughest in the AFC. I have the Ravens, who I'm also going to have going all the way and winning the Super Bowl, as taking it down. They're not going to win 14 games like they did last year, but I have them winning 11 games. But I like both the Steelers and the Browns to make the playoffs here in the North.
Wow. Yeah, okay. This is a no-brainer for me because I got the Ravens as well. Obviously, the Bengals are not going to be competitive. New coach, new quarterback, not much time to get everything together. The Browns are always frauds. People last couple of years have been believing in them, and they always disappoint. I think that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to say, hey, we're ready to get crapped on. And then when it comes to the Steelers, with Ben Roethlisberger on his last legs, who he might be on his last legs, he might get hurt in the first couple of games and miss more time. There's no reason to trust in the Steelers to even make the playoffs, in my opinion. AFC South.
Yeah, Browns could put a big steamer right there in the middle of the 50-yard line, and I guess Odell would like that. I'm going with the Texans. I think Deshaun Watson is going to win the MVP, and I think the Texans will duplicate last year's 10 wins, and I think that they will win the South.
I like the Texans and I like the Titans, and I've got the Titans winning the division over the Texans. I like how Ryan Tannehill came on last year. They've got that strong running game, a great defense as well. They didn't lose their best offensive player, or arguably their best offensive player, like the Texans did. I like the Texans to stay within 9.5 during today's season opener, but I don't like them to necessarily win, and I've got the Titans winning the division. AFC West.
Yeah, this is the Chiefs. I don't know how you could pick any of those other teams. If you look, Von Miller went out, Derwin James for the Chargers, and this is even before they took the first snap. Kansas City all the way here. Kansas City with 13 wins, they'll end up having that bye along with San Francisco. The two teams that won the Super Bowl last year, I think, will be the 1 seeds.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs as well. There's really not much to discuss here. I was, I thought that the Broncos could be perhaps a dark horse in the AFC West until Von Miller got hurt, because I like. I'm not sold on Drew Lock, but he certainly did have a strong finish of the season as the Broncos quarterback. I like the weapons that they put around him, particularly the wide receivers, and then they added to their young group of wide receivers by putting in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler from We Are Penn State. But they're not strong enough to compete with the Chiefs. So I've got the Chiefs winning that. Your AFC wildcard teams are who?
Out of remember the Browns
Oh.
and Steelers, and then I'm going to pick the Colts in there. Jonathan Taylor, they got the best
Over the
offensive
Titans.
line. Yeah, you know what? I really like that Colts offensive line, and they've got the easy schedule going up against the Jags there, and I'm going to take the Colts. Yeah, can't take the same teams, all the same teams from last year. I had to mix it up a little bit,
Yeah.
but I mean I like the Titans, but I like the Colts too.
I've got the Texans with the 5 seed, the Bills with the 6 seed, and the Broncos with the 7 seed. You got the Ravens winning the Super Bowl over the Saints.
No, I'm going to pick out of left field the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's out of left field because I actually have the Cowboys as my number 1 seed, but I've got them not making the Super Bowl. I've got the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl over the Packers. Aaron Rodgers gets back to the Super Bowl, but just doesn't have enough to take out the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you know, it's one of these things here. Again, how the pandemic's going to play, you can't really, factor that in. Is home field advantage going to mean anything? Does it matter if you get to the playoffs? Maybe by then you'll have more fans, so it will be a factor. I mean, who knows how that's going to go. I tried to look at some of the teams that had the most stability on the offensive line, had the most continuity of guys coming back, but, that ultimately – I think that the Browns pick here, they were such an embarrassment last year, and I picked them to make the playoffs and actually win a game, but they fell on their face. But they've just continued. They might have they've got one of the most talented rosters in the NFL here. I'm going with that talent. The Browns is my gutsiest pick.
Yeah.
To make the postseason here.
And if you guys just saw my jaw drop, it's because I was taking a look at my selection for the major wager. Of course, we'll get to that after the 4th chapter. But, let's turn the page to the 4th chapter, Dennis.
Yeah, well, the 4th chapter gets us to the Tigers, who came out in this doubleheader. Chapman loves those 7th inning doubleheaders, man. They are made for TV. He just can't get enough of them. But the Tigers lost 19-0 yesterday. They damn near, if you take it, they were on pace to lose 19-3 in this one. And the first one, they ended up losing 12-2. A barrage of home runs. And the nightcap, when I left it, it was 3-4-0. I don't know where it's at right now, Chap.
Yeah,
where are we at
it's 6-3 Tigers in the bottom of the 7th inning with 1 out.
Wow, how about that? They really turned things around to not so much to your delight, which we will get to coming up.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's right. Look, this is you look at the playoff standings, and going into the second game of the doubleheader, they were 2.5 games back of the Yankees for the final wild card spot. They were also trailing the Baltimore Orioles. The Seattle Mariners are also nipping at their heels, but it's just so difficult to trust in this team to stay in the race. They've exceeded expectations by being in the race, but they've got this low talent lineup. They've got some talent in Skubal and Mize and guys like that in their rotation, but they're going to be up and they're going to be down like Skubal was today when he had no control in that opener of the doubleheader. They've had really bad pitching these last couple of days, and I think it could translate into this weekend series against the White Sox being a tough one because the bullpen's going to continue to be taxed. They're the highest scoring team in the AL. But just when you think the Tigers are going to continue to tank out of control, and you say, oh my gosh, they got Jordan Zimmerman, who's going to be starting the second game of the doubleheader. And he goes out there and gives up a leadoff single in the first pitch of the game, and then a 5-pitch walk the second pitch of the game, or the second batter of the game, gets out of a jam. Then the next inning, the first 3 batters get on base, but he only gives up 1 run in 3 innings. You're like, wow, he got out of this, and the Tyler Alexander struggled a little bit. They got down 3-0, and I was thinking, well, the Tigers are going to lose this game. And then I don't know exactly what happened because I was doing the show, but here they are. They're up 6-3, and if they split the doubleheader, it doesn't really matter how they did so. They played .500 baseball over a 2-game stretch to continue to hang around. So, look, neither of us believe they're going to make the playoffs, but the longer that they keep on doing stuff like this, the longer they keep on, letting us believe they're going to tank out of control, but then they have a crazy comeback win like they're apparently going to have tonight, the longer you at least stay interested. Right?
Yeah, you know what? They don't have a closer. You can't afford to get swept at this point in the season in any kind of little 7-inning doubleheader. So being able to come back here just keeps them in there. But, man, Des Cameron had a nice catch. That they're still hanging around. And having Jordan Zimmerman out there in what, felt like a must-win game today going in and then looking up and seeing a deficit early on. And there it is. It's a final 6-3.
Wow.
So Tigers do get the win. So credit them.
Yeah, that's a heck of a nice comeback for the Tigers when you've been demoralized to the point where over a 2-game span, actually I think it was over a 3-game span, they were out. They allowed the opponents to get on a 31-0 run, because I think it was in the Brewers game on Tuesday. They gave up 4 runs in the 9th inning, and then Wednesday they gave up 19 straight runs, and then they give up 9 or 10 runs in a row to start out the game in Game 1. 31-0 run by opponents. You're thinking, this is just it. But the Tigers, they're not a good team, but they just keep on showing that they're a heck of a lot better than they were last year. So if they can put together one more of those runs with 16 games or something like that to go, where they can go 6 of 8, they can get some quality starts, Zimmerman can give them 3 solid innings or whatever, then they can hang around. The thing that's kept the Tigers in this with the up and down pitching has been the offense, actually, because obviously Jeremy Candelario is the only positive in that first game. But whether it's Candelario or these other guys, they don't have as much power as they had at the beginning of the year, but they're getting the singles and the doubles to put together these rallies and stay in games or put together big rallies to get significant leads like they did in Game 2 of this doubleheader. So you don't trust the names in the lineup, but they'll take a couple of games off, and then boom, there's 6 runs in a 7-inning Manfred ball game.
Hey, had to have it, and they ended up getting it done. Nice job. Yep.
All right, let's turn the page, not to the 5th chapter, but to the major wager. And this is when we give you some betting advice as you head toward the weekend or head to your wagering activities. And Dennis, what are you going to go with? I know you said you had some games for this weekend that you were looking at.
Well, I should say that both you and I were on the Lakers, and I put twice as much as I usually do. I put 50 on the Lakers the other night and came up with a win, so I'm plus 250 here. I'm going to look towards Sunday. I looked at the menu up and down, and the game that jumped out to me the most is the Bills minus 6.5 taking on the Jets. Just don't see it with the Jets here. I liked them a couple months ago, but they started trading guys away. And I just like where the Bills are at. I think the Bills will blow them out. My double digits, that's my game of the week. So I am going to pick the Bills. As far as some of the other selections here.
Oh, no! Dennis goes down! Down goes Fithian! Down goes Fithian!
It happens. It has happened. I went to the futures in the NFL and looked at some of the over and unders. I like let's see where I put. I'm going to go with the unders here. I'm looking for my betting slips. I'm all over the place.
Under with the lines.
I've got the Eagles under 9.5, the Bears under 8, the Jets under 6.5, and the Jags under 4.5. So there's 4 unders I'm going with all the way through. And you know what? I'm buoyed a little bit about what I did with Major League Baseball. I went with the Orioles and the Tigers to go over 20 and 21 and a half. Those look like they're going to be winners for sure. And I went with the Yankees and Dodgers. I think it ended up being under 38, 39, 38 and a half for the Yankees. They're not making that. So I'm going to cash in on 3 out of 4 of those. So I feel good about those futures. So now I'm going with 4 unders. Eagles, Jets, Jags, and Bears, all to go under their numbers.
All right. Well, look, that's for me. I was going with the momentum pick for my major wager. I tweeted it out earlier in the day. I picked the Cardinals in Game 2. There were so many reasons to pick them -1.5. I mean, the Tigers gave up 19 runs to the Brewers yesterday, meaning a taxed bullpen. 12 runs in Game 1, meaning a taxed bullpen. Jordan Zimmerman making his season debut, meaning he'd give up a bunch of runs, and there'd be a taxed bullpen. The Flaherty threw 5 innings, meaning only 2 innings of work for the Cardinals bullpen, so they'd be fresh. So I figured, and then obviously the Tigers' offense has been terrible the last couple of games. Seemed like a no-brainer to pick the Cardinals to win and cover. I was feeling confident after I saw them hit that solo home run to go up 3-0 right before the show started, and then something happened, and the Tigers decided, hey, let's score 6 in a row to ruin Chappie's major wager, and so here we are. That's if you took that advice, it was smart advice. That was a big loser. If you want to know what else I'm thinking about, and these aren't my official picks, but as for tonight's season opener, it's I like the Texans plus 9 points. I already mentioned that I like the Chicago Bears either +3 or +130. I'd take +130 because I think the Bears are going to beat the Lions. And then as far as tonight's Lakers versus Rockets game, it's that game is already underway. I had the Lakers -6, and the Lakers are up 57-41 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So if you pick that, then you're in good shape as well. Although it's fourth quarter. So yeah, I'm not. Come on, choke that game away, Tigers. Just finish off the loss. Anyway, let's now turn the page to the 5th chapter. And that takes us to story time. This is when Dennis and I each have an opportunity to share with you what's going on in our lives. I, of course, have another ride-sharing story, but we start off first with the man, the Fith, the legend, Dennis Fithian.
Yeah, I've pulled 2 items out here. I feel like it's a show and tell whenever it comes up to story time for me. But, Chap, can you tell me what this is?
It's not a book.
No, you're right. It is not a book.
Oh, that's a piece of. Was that from the Palace? Is that a floorboard from the Palace?
That's a very good.
No,
guess.
that's from Michigan. That's maize and blue.
That's right. That is from the Chrysler Arena floor. A friend of mine helped out, dismantle the floor. He got a piece of that, so he gave it to me a couple of years ago. And I used to have it at work, but I cleaned out that desk, and now I have it all here in this Peach Mountain studio. So there it is, the floor from the Chrysler Arena from back in the day. Now, I've been putting in some work on the AM side of radio, so it's really kind of going back to your roots, old school AM radio. And I was down in the basement the other day, and I looked at a box, and it said radio. And I opened it up, and I got to show you this contraption here that I came up with. This is a radio here.
What but the heck?
It also has a TV.
It says Jeep.
It has a TV involved, but that was before you'd have to, maybe 10 years ago, before they put in the high def where you had to have the antenna. You might have been able to get some games in, but you're not going to be able to do that unless you had some of the exterior antenna. I don't even know if that would have worked either, but it's really quite a contraption. It's got these 2 lights here on the outside. This one says something about mosquito repellent. I'm afraid to push that one. It's not plugged in right now. But the thing is I thought, okay, you know what? At least I'll be able to tune it on. And it was late at night to put it on. The siren started wham, wham going on. But
Let's hear it.
I don't have it plugged in.
Oh.
And I did put some batteries in there, but it wasn't working. It's just a real sketchy type. I don't know what the heck. It weighs about 20 pounds, and the TV will never work. But it's got some lights on here, and the mosquito repellent is the thing that really came in with. But it doesn't really get radio stations in really well. So I think that it's either hang on and just hang on and take this and have it as an antique one day, or put it in or bite the bullet and just throw it in the trash. And I think I'm going to do the latter. But and here, look you get lost, you get yourself a compass that you can take around there.
What the heck is that? Looks like something that was on the clearance rack at either, I don't know, Gander Mountain or Toys R Us, and something that was on the clearance rack for like 10 years.
It can tell you
the temperature.
The temperature there's a.
Yeah, that's Gander Mountain.
It was still in the box. I think somebody one day or 1 year threw that out as a birthday or Christmas present. But there you go. You can always just use it for the flashlight. Run around. But
that's a Gander Mountain or Cabela's clearance rack reject thing that's been there for 15 years.
It was before cell phones, man. You've got your light, you got your compass, you've got your, and I could get the AM station in right through right through the phone. So yeah, I mean I had it here for a while. It's just taking up room. It's a piece of junk.
Yeah,
that's my story.
That's like something that I don't know, some college engineer decided, hey, what if I could just put all my engineering skills together and make a great contraption? And then he came up with that. He or she came up with that.
Steve Jobs is rolling over in his grave.
Yeah, I would say so. All right, so as for my story, as a lot of you guys know, I am a rideshare driver, Uber and Lyft, and on a Friday night a couple of weeks ago, I drove over to Trump's strip club on 8 Mile to pick a guy up. And when he got in, he was not in a good mood, and he was a bit drunk. It was about 1:45, 1:50 a.m., so almost every strip club closes at 2 a.m. And when he got in the car, he said he was pissed off because they wouldn't let him in because the strip club was so close to closing time. And he said, I've got all this money. I just want to go in there and do $400 worth of coke with some strippers, and you think they let me in, but I guess they don't want my money, so I'll just take my money elsewhere. And look, I don't know what the going rate of cocaine is, but $400 worth of cocaine seems like a heck of a lot. So I start the ride, and I see that his destination was about a quarter of a mile away to another strip club. And the problem with that strip club, which is Penthouse, was that strip club is closed. And I'm not talking about closed for the night. They've been closed for months. Multiple strippers over the years have been telling me about how that strip club violates regulations, and I know that a couple of years ago it was closed for a month or two, and I guess that it reopened after they were suspended. But it's been closed for several months, and not just due to the pandemic. It was closed for several months before the pandemic started. So I told the guy, look, it's closed, and he said, yeah, just take me there anyway. I'll figure out what to do when we get there. So we drive a quarter mile down the street, get to the parking lot, and the parking lot is empty because it's closed. And he said, oh, it's really closed. And I said, yes, it's really closed, like I said. So he was thinking about just heading home for the night. And then he said, look, I've got $400. I want to spend it on some coke and some strippers. Are there any other strip clubs or any other after-hour spots that are open right now? And I couldn't think of any. And this dude was just desperate to get some of that nose candy. And he started searching on his phone. He's looking on his phone, trying to figure out what to do. And then he changes the destination in the Uber app to Deja Vu Strip Club on Woodward and McNichols. And I told him that they've changed their name twice since it was Deja Vu, but that strip club might be open because I've driven people there a couple of times and it's been open after 2 a.m. But that intersection, Woodward and McNichols, is the prostitution capital of the state of Michigan. That's one thing I've learned driving as a rideshare driver, is that is the prostitution capital of the state of Michigan. And that strip club is on that corner, and it has been open after 2 a.m. It's a big strip club, but it's a ratchet strip club, bad neighborhood, like I mentioned. But he said he didn't care. what the name of it was he wanted to go. So I drove him there, started driving. It's about 12 minutes. Several times during the course of that ride, he was saying he wanted to stop at an ATM, and he'd give me a big tip if I took him to the strip club. He was concerned that I might not take him there. I was like, oh, no, we'll go. We didn't end up stopping at a strip club, but he kept on talking about wanting to spend $300 to $400 on cocaine with these strippers, and he mentioned that he had a girlfriend, and I suggested, well, why don't you just go home to her? And he said that she texted him and said that she broke her ankle tonight. I said, oh, well, how's she doing? And he said that he called her, but she didn't pick up the phone, so he was going to do coke with strippers tonight. So I was like, all right, obviously he's got his priorities. He also mentioned that he was a hockey player, a pro hockey player. And I asked if he was in the NHL, and he said no. I said, well, are you in the AHL? He said no. I said, are you in the ECHL? He said no. He said he was in some very small minor league team, so obviously not some sort of great prospect that you're going to get to know on a first-name basis soon. But he said that he couldn't drive right now because his license was suspended due to a DUI. And I said, well, you think that's because of the lifestyle that you're living right now, that you got your license suspended? And he said no, and he started making excuses, and then he changed his mind, and he said, yeah, that probably was part of it. And then he said that he has to get tested on a regular basis to make sure that he's sober as part of his probation. And I asked him why he was determined to snort up $400 worth of cocaine tonight if he has to pass drug tests. And he said that he knows when he's going to get tested, and he knows he's not going to get tested for another 3 days. So I said, so basically, since you're not going to be tested for another 3 days, it's imperative that you snort all that coke tonight so it can be out of your system by the time you get tested. And he said, that's right. So now I was understanding why he was just hell-bent to snort up all that coke on that particular night. He could not wait. And as we're getting to the strip club, he was getting antsy. He was wondering if it was going to be open. And we hadn't pulled into the parking lot yet because he was in the back, and he was saying, what kind of place is this? Because he was looking at it, and obviously being in the sketchy neighborhood, being such a ratchet strip club in the hood, prostitution capital of the state. But, that concern was short-lived because we get to the parking lot, we pull in. He asked if I wanted to wait around about a half hour or an hour so I could take him home, and obviously I had another ride and wasn't interested in waiting for him to wake up from his cocaine stupor to request a ride. So I just left so that he could snort himself into oblivion with those hood rat strippers.
All right. Well, hey, very uplifting story, Jeff. Maybe one day we will see. We will see that guy. I'm glad you withheld his name there in case he does make it big in the NHL.
I have no idea what his name was.
Coming up on Tuesday, will we have a revote in the Big Ten? This is not a repeat. We'll know more by Tuesday. Everybody have a great weekend and enjoy the return of football. It's been the Fifth Chapter. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to